This is Bridgwater, the town I grew up in, the town I love. To many people, it's a place on the A38 with a smell like bad eggs. The distinctive aroma of the British Cellophane Company may not be everybody's idea of a night in Paris, but to my family, and many other families in this town, it was our source of bread and butter. Its days as a bustling market town and important docks have been and gone. However, a new life and energy is emerging. Yes, Bridgwater is definitely on the move. The home of Carnival, the first arts centre in England, supposedly the most number of pubs in any high street, home of that great admiral, Robert Blake. Oh, yes, and we're proud of the Sea Cadet Corps band as well. You name it, we've got it. At school, Bridgwater was also the place that was associated with the Battle of Sedgemoor. I don't think I really understood what it was all about, but the name SOHO seemed to keep cropping up during the whole story. Could there have been a red light area in Westonzoyland, I wonder?
4, 5, 8.
What I failed to realise was that the events concerning the Battle of Sedgemoor actually covered the whole of the southwest. Now that means from Lyme Regis through to Taunton, Bridgwater, right way through to Keynsham and back down to Westonzoyland for the final confrontation. This then is my story of that courageous attempt to take the throne. The last battle on English soil. No, it's not the French lieutenant's daughter. It's not even his son. But the location's right. Lyme Regis in Dorset. It also happens to be the starting point of the Monmouth Rebellion. All right, settle down, 2B. I've had enough of that. Right, now then. Now please pay attention, this is important. Now Monmouth, there he is, was the illegitimate son of Charles II. There's Charlie Boy up there. But Charles never thought that Monmouth was going to be his successor. That was going to be Jimbo. James boy, he was going to be a king. Now here's the problem. James, with that dog keep quiet please. James was a Catholic. Monmouth was a Protestant, and of course the Protestant felt that a Catholic king was going to be a threat to their religion. Now Monmouth had been in Holland in 1683. Paid a little visit, there you are, red light district of Amsterdam. But he didn't go there. No, he went for other reasons. Exile. Comes back over here to this part of the world to try and raise up some support. Meanwhile, up here, up in Scotland, the Duke of Argyll has been rousing up a rebellion. Terrible rebellion. Now with the rebellion up here, rebellion down there, the king's army doesn't know what to do. He's all over the place. He splits the Tinkers right in two. So what happens when that happens? The two armies meet in the middle, wallop straight to London, and we seize the crown. God save the Duke of Monmouth. But no, what was to happen was not as we thought.
What? Oh, not another rebellion.
Three ships, 80 men, 10 days sailing from Holland. Lyme Regis was near Taunton, which was going to be the centre of the uprising. Recruits would easily be found here to support the cause. Celebrations here today by the sealed knot could even bear some resemblance to that same event, June 11, 1685. The Sealed Knot and the English Civil War Society would provide the core of the commemorative reenactments throughout the region.
Gentlemen, it is true I am the rightful heir to this throne. With the West Country, we will go and we will take the throne of this fair nation of ours. Yes!
To all these holiday makers, all this seems a bit of fun, you know. But to the landing forces, it was serious business. News of the landing soon got back to London, through Mayor Alford. The 1985 version of the Duke of Monmouth is played by Paul Davis, a dedicated sealed knotter who in real life works for the Keynesian Chronicle.
Monmouth proceeding along the prom, over.
Today's mayor doesn't seem too worried about things. He's obviously enjoying himself. And trade is brisk in the town. The rebel force recruits from Lyme Regis and neighbouring towns were quick to respond to the call. And a skirmish at Bridgwater gave the rebel force a chance to bare their teeth. And this was partly successful. On June the 15th, with 1,500 foot and cavalrymen, Monmouth set out for Axminster. Come on, girls, get a grip of yourselves. Well, this got rid of them. They'll not be back for another 300 years. With optimism riding high, the rebel force left Lyme Regis moving north towards Axminster and Taunton, and thence to Bristol. Men and younger sons were quick to take up arms to join, and at the same time, womenfolk in the villages kept them fed on good country fare. As they say, an army marches on its stomach. My God, that should keep them moving. Religious fervour was kept on the boil by a dissenting minister who owes more to fire and brimstone than to bread and broth.
Come to this land, and God did place into his hand a sword, a mighty sword, and with it the angel went forth, and he did destroy the devil. Know the meaning of my vision? The tyrant, papist, James, the devil, and the angel sent from the Lord, a Monmouth king!
What of the King's men?
Intelligence of the Duke's landing reached King James 2 days after the event.
Lord Churchill, Royal Army Commander.
Immediately, I was dispatched to command such troops as were available and rode westwards with a small party of horse, about 2 troops of horse, and shadowed Monmouth's army in their advance towards Bristol, which being a city with a large dissenting population was one of his principal aims. Much to my disappointment, His Majesty has seen fit to appoint Lord Faversham to command the army. Lord Faversham is an experienced officer, but I feel that he hasn't had quite the same experience as myself. My Lord Faversham brought up the majority of the foot, including the train of artillery, and we concentrated near Bath.
This was a professional, disciplined army, highly trained in the art of fighting, well fed, well equipped, and raring to go. The advance of the rebel force was met by the local militia from Honiton. However, Monmouth captured Axminster with little trouble, as these untried defenders fell back in panic. Men from Chard and Ilminster swelled the rebel ranks as they moved deeper into Somerset. The reception that Monmouth got in Taunton was tremendous. Trouble was, the corporation and the local dignitaries were unhappy. So much so that a certain Mr. Blue took a pot shot at Monmouth. But he missed. Come on. The Duke, however, got great support from the surrounding villages. A brand new regiment was formed, the Blue Regiment. Now, this was commanded by Colonel Bavette, who'd actually been one of Cromwell's captains. Taunton also provided Monmouth with a great publicity bonus. 27 local schoolgirls welcomed him, each bearing a banner, one of which bore the initials J.R. No, not him. Jacobus Rex, James the King, meaning James, Duke of Monmouth. Now, these girls come from the Weirfield School in Taunton, but in 1685, the girls came from Miss Blake's school. He accepted a Bible and a sword from them. The Bible for truth and goodness, the sword for valor. Mr. Tiley of Bristol proclaimed Monmouth king.
Whereas on the decease of our sovereign Lord Charles II, late King of England, etc., the right of succession...
Treason had been committed. The die was cast. There could be no turning back now.
Born Prince James, Duke of Monmouth, son and heir apparent to the said...
Bridgwater loves an excuse to let its hair down, be it the Guy Fawkes Carnival, St Matthew's Fair, or, as I remember it, the local agricultural show. Oh, we had some fun there. Today, it's Monmouth's arrival in town. Many Bridgwater schools got involved in the celebrations, some royalists, some rebels, making costumes and armour. This group from Sedgemoor School joined forces with the Sedgemoor Theatre Trust to reenact a rebel-rousing recruiting scene from the company's play The King's Justice. Come on, then! Captain John Vincent addresses the throng. Actually, it's Matthew Adams from Cummage.
I am captain of the Red Regiment. It is the Duke of Monmouth's own regiment. Our march is proud. So if you want vengeance, if you want glory, we do! Then join this regiment and march under its colours. And I can promise you much conflict. By the people, a proclamation.
Things is going to be different with this Monmouth in charge. You only got to look at him. He's got something about him, hasn't he? They did say that he had 3,000 men with him by the time he got to Axminster. They've been falling over themselves up the Chard and Taunton to join his regiment. Eh? I mean, look at this lot here we got in Bridgwater.
And for delivering the kingdom of popery, tyranny, and oppression, to recognize and proclaim the said high and mighty Prince James, Duke of Monmouth, our lawful and rightful king. By the will of the people, God save the king!
Thomas Penny, you can go off to join the Duke's regiment. Yeah, we're not going to have that James on the throne no more. I'm an evil dog. I'm going to get myself some weapons and some armour. Yeah? Well, if they ain't got none, I should just have to make do with size and a pitchfork, shan't I? Yeah, then it's on to Bristol.
Fight, fight, fight! We'll fight for the people and for liberty.
I wanted to look at the play from the point of view of the ordinary people.
The play's author, Charles Mander.
In times of conflict, it's the ordinary people who fight and die and suffer terribly. They must have had some very, very strong motive for joining, and one of the motives was religion, and the other one was the autocratic government of King James.
Morale was good. On went Monmouth towards Bristol, but there was an obstacle. With Bristol protected by the Avon, the local militia are now in position. Monmouth approached Keynsham from the Pensford side. Now, the King's men had done considerable damage to the Avon Bridge. Would they be able to get across? This was to be the watershed for Monmouth. Smiles were soon to turn to sour looks when that rebel-rousing pretender to the throne met our boys in red for a far-from-friendly fixture at Keynsham. As the whistle went, all the fury of a Twickenham tussle was let loose. It was no holds barred and tackle 'em low, boys, as these yokels from the sticks met the red caps from the capital. Locked into a scrummage, it was heads down for the big shot. But there's no doubt it'll be an away win for the Royal troops. Some of these lads make up their own rules as they go along. He'll certainly get a penalty for that, if not sent off. There won't be much singing the showers for this lot, and it'll take more than a sponge to bring him round. The results at Keynsham were catastrophic. The confidence of the rebel army began to drain away. I don't know what's going on, do I? I tell you, bang what the Duke had in mind. Mind you, when we come up through the Chew Valley towards Keynsham, we knew then we was going to have a go at Bristol. Trouble is, the buggers don't tell us what's going on, do they? I mean, we take on the King's Life Guards and Horse Grenadiers before we should have. I mean, one of the prisoners we took, he only tells us that the bloody Royal Army's got 4,000 men stuck over there, haven't we? God, I don't know what we're doing now. Everything's gone higgledy-piggledy. The Duke, he don't know where he's going next. Well, tell you what, though. One thing we do know is we're in the right. Oh, yeah, and the word's around, we're on our way to London. Mind you, I shan't forget Keynsham and I'll tell you that. Leaving Keynsham, spelled K-E-Y-N-S-H-A-M, Monmouth didn't even have time to park his car. The rebels marched towards Bath. Come on.
Ah, there you are. Now, Bath is not given to being pushed about. Not blooming lightly. I mean, why should they let 4,000 troops through the town, churn up the streets and cause chaos? Their answer was sharp and to the point. The messenger was shot dead. With morale low, Monmouth's men drifted south towards Norton St. Philip. Not a bad idea with a pub like the George.
Pat Lawless is a local with a particular interest in the history of Norton and its association with the Pitchfork Rebellion.
Probably up here.
Now, this area, I believe, is actually called SOHO.
This is SOHO. It's still known as SOHO in the village today. It's called SOHO after the rallying call of Monmouth's troops.
I heard that, but I was never sure whether it was true. Do you think that's true?
Yes, well, about the street ballad of the time, Monmouth is at Norton Crown, all are fighting for the crown. SOHO, boys, SOHO.
But what does it mean, do you think?
I think it was just their rallying call, and also Monmouth owned land in London, in the area which is still SOHO today. The battle was actually fought at this junction with North Street here, and the barricade behind which the rebels entrenched themselves was across the end of this road. The Royalists attacked facing the barricade, and the heaviest part of the skirmish was here, and they say the corpses and the blood rolled down the lane, so forever after it was known as Bloody Lane.
Time to move on, I think, don't you?
At the bottom of the village is Wellow Lane, and that's the route that the rebel army came from Bath to Norton St. Philip the night before the battle. They say in the village today that Wellow Lane is haunted, and Monmouth's troops on stormy nights can be heard riding along the lane, and the harness jingling and soldiers laughing, and quite a few villagers won't go into the lane after dark.
It's the sort of battling I like. With a jug of scrum. Mind you, now this particular jug, 'twas given to me by the Duke himself. To me, Thomas Penny, humble estate worker, and now rebel soldier. Oh, Thomas Penny. Here we ended up here after being turned away from Bath. Blooming funny lot there, isn't there? Okay? Yeah, the old Duke, he was in a bad way.
I ain't seen him like that before. He was all over the blooming place. Anyway, to stay here, in fact, he was up in that room up about there. Having a bit of a shave he was, when down here in the courtyard, some evil villain, one of them royalists, tried to take a blooming pot shot at him. Well, I was on guard at the time, wasn't I? Go on, get out, Duke, I said! Bang! Missed. Oh, yeah, they do say I saved the Duke's life. Well, he's a bugger, isn't I? Mind you, there ain't many lads from Bridgwater can have claimed to have saved the next King of England's life now, is there, eh? Good health to you. Go on, get off out of here!
People turned out in their hundreds for the celebration at Norton. Everyone was there, from the butcher to the baker. With the sun shining, side stalls did brisk business with the punters, while the beer tent took a hammering from the lads. Get your balloons here, dear, get your balloons here. And it's good day from him.
Thank you all as well last night for your cooperation in clearing the pubs very quickly. Both landlords were much appreciative.
As the armies approached, the cut and thrust of excitement spilled over to the children. Gotcha! Meanwhile, back at the briefing...
I would also like the barricade party, which is Mr. Webb and Mr. Pomeroy, who are again just behind me. They know the musketeers, they want the barricade party. They are...
excuse me, could you tell me the way to the boys' room, please?
Yes, down there, just behind that hedge on the left. Okay?
Yes, thanks very much. The high spot of the afternoon's fun and games was the reenactment of the Battle of Phillips Norton. A stillness spread over the field as the two armies approached. Get your programme. Lovely programmes, battle programmes. 500 of the King's troops with a glint of battle in their eyes. Mind you, these days it looks as though the shooting is done with cameras rather than muskets. But Monmouth's men had hastily built a barricade and heavy fighting ensued. At close quarters, the fighting was violent. No place for cowards, and neither side had many of those. Mind you, there were a few on the touchlines. Oh! Geoffrey Coombs, you've lived in the village, or your family's lived here for, what, 300 years or so now?
Quite 300 years, possibly a lot more. We're not quite certain.
What was the family doing that amount of years ago? What was their job?
They were millers. They ran the mill in the lane at the bottom of the village here, the corn mill.
Now, they'd obviously have been here in 1685 at the time of Monmouth's visit.
Height of the battle. A great-great-grandmother of mine was in the mill yard attending to the animals. And this cannonball fell in the yard somewhere.
Must have given her a bit of a fright, though, I should think.
I should think it must have. And evidently, when it cooled, it was carried indoor and always used as the doorstop.
Confusion reigned in the rebel camp. What to do for the best? Runners carried messages to and fro. Soldiers were confused. In the end, an attack was ordered. The infantry waded in. Close, hot work, pike pushes, where so often advantages can be won or lost. Here, you get to see your opponent, unless he sees you first. At the end of the day, Monmouth got his first victory. For Lord Faversham, well, you win some and you lose some. There's always tomorrow. The public have had a good day out, and events of the day will soon be liquid history in the George. The commentator for the battle was head of war studies at Sandhurst, David Chandler.
What does it feel like to have suffered some sort of defeat at the hands of the rebel swordsmen, sir?
Sir, I would not accept the staff officers of my Lord Faversham that it was a defeat at all. Slight tactical reverse. We were just testing his mettle and seeing what his water was like, and it seems to me that perhaps there's a little bit more skill in this rebel army than we thought.
So do you feel he stands a good chance now?
Wouldn't think of a chance at all.
The Monmouth men, they do have a certain advantage, though, in this close hand-to-hand combat, would you not say?
When it gets very close, that might be so, but when we get our chance to use our royal volleys properly, the royal volley firing of the matchlock musket, we will blow them away like the dust off the table.
Dust to dust, ashes to ashes. In reality, at the end of the day, there were 98 corpses on the battlefield. Only 18 of these were Monmouth's men, some of them close friends.
But it was time now to consolidate, with neither side wanting a final showdown. Both armies regrouped. Monmouth moved south. Here in Wells, rioting rebels stripped the cathedral roof of its lead for ammunition. That scaffolding there, they probably nicked that as well. The organ was damaged, horses were housed in the aisles. Now that's not the sort of behaviour that Wells would approve of, is it? For Monmouth, time was running out. He was in retreat, and he needed to make a stand. But where? Well, the promise of 10,000 new recruits in Bridgwater helped to make that decision. Would this provide the bridgehead? It was a quiet town that welcomed the rebels back. Rather like, you know, welcoming home the local sports team that's just lost the final. Not the 10,000 recruits as promised. Just 160. Feversham, he's camped out at Westonzoyland, in the area known as Sedgemoor. Oh, you see the reins all right? They can be very difficult to get across them reins. Eh? You can see the cattle over there too. That's old Benjamin Godfrey's cattle. He come rushing back here to tell the Duke, he said 3 or 4 miles off in Westonzoyland, King's Army's camping over there. We don't know what the Duke's going to do about all this, though. He's all over the place. Me? What do I think? Well, I tell you, I think that he's going to have a surprise attack on Faversham. This is it for us. The deciding battle. Whether or not it's all been worthwhile or not. The Duke has got to act now. And tonight. The swift decision had been made. Monmouth would head back to Keynsham. This time, he would take Bristol. A surprise attack on the Royalist army, and the way was clear. The rebels left Bridgwater under cover of darkness, and also under the influence of drink. They felt that would help to numb the fear. They left in 2 columns, one of cavalry, one of infantry. Absolute silence. What mansoever makes a noise, that'll be knocked on the head by another. Now, they came down here on the Bristol Road. Actually, it's now the Bath Road. And just about here, they took a right into Bradney Lane. Yes, Bradney Lane was here even at the time of Sedgemoor. And a bit further up is Peasy Farm. Peasy Farm's on a knoll. They get a good look out over the Rees. 2 miles to go. There's a mist hanging over the Reen, which cuts down the vision quite a bit. The silence is excruciating. The password is SOHO. Monmouth aims to get among the King's regulars for a surprise attack. Meanwhile, Feversham, the royal commander, goes for a night's sleep. Everything goes well for the rebels until they struggle to find a way over the Langmoor Reen. It's not known who fired the shot, but the game was up. All hell broke loose. For the rebels, all their plans have gone astray. From now on, it's up to the good Lord. Compton and the Royalist cavalry are sent to guard the upper plungeon, and that's the small bridge used to cross the Reen. Monmouth's men soon meet their match with the Royalists' superior power. The Royalists fight off the assault. It's almost a rout. There are signs of panic as some of the rebels flee. Those left behind are pitiably outnumbered. Not that a few royal horses don't also head for home without their riders. Before too long, the bitter battle of Sedgemoor is resolving itself into a ferocious battle between the infantrymen. Remember, this all took place in the pitch black between midnight and dawn. The Royal Infantrymen advance for one of the infamous pike pushes. Ragged, brave, terrifying. Definitely ex-certificate stuff. Like being caught between 2 giant porcupines. casualties grow alarmingly. Those who miss the pike or the scythe get chopped down by the rampaging cavalry. There's just no way out. It's now turning into a slaughter. Tremendous courage by Monmouth's men just isn't enough, nor is the curved blade of a scythe against the advancing ranks of a highly skilled army, ordered to show no mercy. The morale of the rebels is in tatters. But what has happened to Monmouth, Lord Grey and other senior officers? Can they really have scarpered after all those fine rallying phrases back at Lyme, Taunton and Bridgwater? The rebel army numbered about 3,600 men for the assault on Westonzoyland. The royalists numbered just under 3,000. All of them trained, fighting men.
They got me. Oh! Oh, I don't care anymore about anything. All I know is we're done for. I'm done for. And Monmouth, he ain't going to be king.
How many prisoners were in fact kept in this church at Westonzoyland?
We think about 500. There was a little drummer boy just outside the port somewhere who recorded them as they came in, and he described some of them in a very bad way, with bits of limbs hanging off and so on.
You know at Chedsaw they got the marks on the church, haven't they? Where the fine Norman parish church of St Mary the Virgin in Westonzoyland had never before been witness to such gruesome happenings. Robert Dunning, a Somerset historian whose book The Monmouth Rebellion was published recently, spoke of the aftermath.
About 1,000 died, cut to pieces, a lot of them, in the cornfields in Chedsey. Those who were tried, 300 or so, were executed, so it wasn't very funny for them.
Were there executions here in Westonzoyland?
Oh yes, some without trial, on trees just outside the church.
Now, what happened to Monmouth after the battle?
He and 3 or 4 fellow officers made for the Mendips. Couldn't make up their minds where to go from there. Some of them said the best way to go was to uphill to get away through the channel. And he decided in the end to try for the New Forest and the south coast. He was found in a ditch near Lymington, disguised as a woman, and was arrested immediately and taken up by slow stages to London.
Rain silence for Judge Jeffreys. Right, silence in court. This court is now open. The monstrous ways of rebellion will not be tolerated in any court of mine. King James II will, I am sure, wish me to spare no sympathy in bringing to court all those whose sole intention was to overthrow the monarchy. Call first witness. Name? Alice Loyal, dear. Address? Moyles Court. You are, I believe, harboring an evil rebel. One John Hicks. No, dear. He was a minister of God. He was an evil rebel of the rebellious force. But I only gave him shelter, dear. You harbored an evil rebel. Your offense is treason. The sentence for which is that you shall be burnt alive. Oh, dear! It is the duty of every citizen of this country to inform on those who assisted the rebellion. I shall spare no scruples in bringing neighbor against neighbor, if necessary. Now, call forth the squire of the court.
Yes, my lad.
Please will you read out the list of rebels?
Yes, sir. Arthur Matthews, William Jenkins, Benjamin Hewling, John Dwyer, John Hucker, Robert Perrott, Thomas Jenkins, Robert Salter, Jonathan England, John Sharp,
A huge crowd had gathered on Tower Hill. Normally they were very noisy, but in this case they weren't noisy at all, and it took 5 horrible blows to get the Duke's head off. And when the executioner lifted up the head, there was dead silence. Absolute silence.
Today, the care of the monument is carried out by children from the Westonzoyland Primary School.
We're clearing out the monument for the Battle of Sedgemoor. And there was 2 armies, the Rebel Army and the Royalist soldiers, and they fought for their belief. There's a story that 12 o'clock at night, on the day that the battle was fought, if you went up the church steps, you could hear the battle going on.
This sword was discovered on the battlefield by Mr. Glover, who presented it to the school. Today, it is carried by these working parties as a reminder. This is a local story, and a tragic one. So many lives lost. There were no goodies or baddies, although I must say as a kid, we always thought of ourselves as one of the rebels. Maybe kids always do. It was the last battle on English soil. A rebellion which very nearly succeeded. And it's a salutary lesson to all in government not to underestimate the power of the people. We seem to be crazy for anniversaries. Any excuse and we'll be out. Anniversaries here and there. Now the Battle of Sedgemoor. Still, it's probably better this way than the real thing.
We'll drink to the history of Somerset with cider and lots of strong beer. We'll tell them the story of Sedgemoor and the battle that took place quite near. And so at the Battle of Sedgemoor, both sides had to fight for their lives. But finally Monmouth was beaten, was captured, beheaded, so died. Take heed of this story of Monmouth, so gruesomely killed on that day. If you seek for power, remember, you can't beat the system that way. We'll drink to the history of Somerset with cider and lots of strong beer. We'll tell them the story of Sedgemoor and the battle that took place quite near.